Thank you, everybody, for dialing in, giving up your time. What we're going to start with is a quick introduction from myself and my two guests. Then, literally, we're just going to talk through their experiences. I'm going to ask them some questions as we go along, just to draw out what their experience is as professional sports people transitioning into financial services, what that has been like. So we'll probably chat for around 25, 30 minutes and then open up the mic to anybody that has got any questions. So I'll start by introducing myself. Most of you probably already know me. I'm Luiza Todd, one of the directors of Bespoke Training Solutions. So that's enough about me. Yeah, I'm going to go over to, first of all, Ben Stebbings. Ben, if you could just give us an introduction of who you are and what you do and where you've come from.
Perfect, yeah. So I'm currently a financial planner. I've been in the industry for 6 months as a financial planner for a company called Unity Wealth Management. I suppose technically I'm on my third career. So I started life, playing cricket, did that for about 7 years. Not quite as successfully as Anuj, hence why I then transitioned from that onto my previous career. So I was in sports medicine and orthopaedics in various commercial roles. So I had sales, global marketing, management roles. Did that for 8 years. But during that time, realised didn't want to do it long term, or couldn't see myself doing it long term. Developed a keen interest whilst I was on the road, listening to podcasts and reading books on financial advice, whilst trying to work out what to do with my own money. Saw the impact that financial advisor had on my father, allowed him to retire from a career he hated early. Realised, that looks pretty good. That looks fun. So, started my journey probably a couple of years ago, doing the exams. Did the exams during my old job with the help of BTS, because I've no way I would have done it without you guys. And then, had my first role 6 months ago, and loving it. So, that's a little whistle stop tour of me.
It's such a great thing, isn't it? It's if you can actually do something that you've got a passion for, that you actually enjoy. 100%. So that's life's too short to be in a career where you're miserable, isn't it, really?
100%, yeah.
Thank you, Ben. Right, Anuj, I'm going to come to you. Yeah, if you could give us an introduction, please.
Sure. Thanks, Luiza. Thanks for having me. Obviously, as you can probably tell by my kit, I'm a current professional cricketer at Derbyshire County Cricket Club. I've pretty much been involved in sport my whole life. I signed professionally at Nottinghamshire originally. Grew up in and around Nottingham, and was contracted there from pretty much when I left school at 17. Grew up through that. Obviously played for a few years at Nottinghamshire, then made the move down the A52 to Derby, and have pretty much been there ever since. So it was in probably around 2019 where, in professional cricket and professional sport, you sign quite short-term contracts. It's quite a cutthroat environment to be in. And I was in my final year of my contract in 2019, and a couple of things, injuries and things kind of took their course, and wasn't entirely sure what was going to go on. So had to kind of be forced out of my comfort zone to think about potential options outside of cricket and potential options in the real world that I might look into. And finances was always something that I had an interest in, but didn't really know where I was going to go. So I attended a Discover event through St James's Place. Found out a little bit more about obviously the diploma in regulated financial planning, and since then obviously was fortunate to extend my contracts and obviously still be playing cricket, but set myself a goal of trying to get through my diploma while I'm still playing. And fortunately, I'm 5 out of 6 exams through at the moment, so RO6 to do in January next year. And unfortunately, all the sittings for RO6 are smack bang in the middle of the season. So through BTS's help, I've managed to get through 5 out of 6, and hopefully, fingers crossed, can get through RO6 next year.
Which is absolutely fantastic. Both you and Ben just did so amazingly well, in terms of study, getting the exams. RO6 always a bit more of a challenge because you've only got 4 sittings in any 1 year. So trying to work that around your sports commitment, sounds like it's been a bit of fun. Everybody, just to point out, the session is recorded. You probably heard a few minutes ago, we are recording this session. So it will be available as a podcast for you to listen to yeah, in a few days' time. So doing it live, but it is recorded. So, Ben, I'm going to come back to you. Yeah, and my first question is if you can share with us your experience of moving into financial services and tell us a little bit of what that was like.
Yeah, I think twofold one. One really positive. I found the industry very welcoming, very willing to give out the time to help, to give you advice, to give you some idea of how to break in. And then I also found on the flip side quite frustrating for me personally, because I'd come from a previous career where I've got some good experience, especially being customer. I knew I wanted to be a financial planner. I knew I wanted to be customer facing because that's where my experience lied. I've been in sales and marketing roles in front of people, or in my previous jobs. And I was willing to go down say the more traditional route. I was happy to do an admin role and then maybe a paraplan and then eventually a financial advisor. Yeah, I mean, I was happy and willing to do that. But a lot of people, they knew. I mean, I'm pretty honest and open, as you know, and I'd say like I do want to be a financial planner. And so a lot of people put off that. I say, well, you're too ambitious. You're just going to get bored of being an admin, bored of being a paraplanner. And you want to move that through too quickly, which to be fair, they're right, I would have done. And I'd have been useless admin, and I'd have been useless paraplanner, having been in it, because their careers in their own right, how I've experienced it. And so I'm a big proponent. I don't know if that's traditional career, right? I think it works, but I don't think it's necessary. But then on the flip side, I was told, well, you're not going to experience. I mean, so moving you straight into a financial planner role, or trainee role even, it's probably not feasible. So I found it quite difficult to actually find someone or somewhere who'd take me on.
And I can absolutely see that from their perspective, because
and I get it as well, by the way. So
they're looking at you in terms of, it's one thing getting the exams, but another thing, they'd be investing a lot of money in you.
Yeah.
You've got no experience, but I also get actually not everybody has the personality or the desire to start in administration, to work as a paraplanner, and both of those absolutely careers in their own right. You 100%. Always strike me as somebody that is a bit more, how can I put this politely, gabby. And you like that engagement. That gives you a bit of the passion in engaging with clients.
Yeah.
So you say you found it both. You got a lot of encouragement. A really great welcome. Where did you get that welcome from? Where did you actually go? To get that information, and to end up in the position where actually as a profession we were dead welcoming. Where did you go?
So there's probably three things if I look back. So one, I reached out to a few recruiters, gave my story, gave my CV, my background, found them to be really helpful, at least have a chat. And they were very honest and say, look, we don't tend to get paid or remunerated too well for placing trainees, so it might be hard to do it for you. But this is what we recommend, which I get as well, because my previous role I've recruited as well, so I know how it works in terms of they're trying to run a business, and fair enough. And then I also joined a community called Next Gen Planners, and found that a brilliant reason. They're growing. That I would recommend anyone who's very interested to join them. I think it's like £14 a month, but what you get for it is ridiculous. And so a few people in there very took some time to have a chat with me on the phone, give me advice. So that was brilliant. And then the third thing is that I just wrote off to loads of local. I just basically went on Google Maps and said financial planners in the area, looked at their website, filtered them out whether I would like to speak to that kind of, they aligned with what I want, my values as it were. Wrote off to loads of those, picked up the phone to a few of them as well, and found I was surprised the response I got. People said, look, we're not recruiting and we're not in a position to, but they'd give me 5-10 minutes of their time just to give me some advice. So I was actually pleasantly surprised by that as well. So those are the three main things I did. And I found it really beneficial just to speak to people. And it gave me a bit more of a clear route to, how I'm going to get to where I am now, basically.
Yeah, no, I think as a profession, it never ceases to surprise me how generous people are with their time. Even when there's nothing in it for them. And you mentioned Next Gen Planners. You've got financial advisor mentorship. You've actually got
that was part of that as well, actually. Yeah, good point. Yeah, sorry, I mean, but that's another really good one for anyone to get on board with.
Yeah, because they're so good at getting information to you, but also putting you in touch with people doing the different jobs. Yeah, and as I say, just so generous with their time. So Anuj, if I could go to you, same question. Yeah, what's your experience? Now you're in a different position to Ben, because you're still a professional sports person, and in the background you are completing your diploma. But how did you hear about the event that SJP ran? How did you initially start getting the information?
So we as professional cricketers, we're part of our trade union. Essentially, is the Professional Cricketers Association, and they've got really good links and networks with a lot of different companies and sectors, around the UK, and they've got really good links with St James's Place. So our PDM, or personal development manager, who looks after us as players, I spoke to him initially when I was looking at different avenues to kind of go down, and he put me in touch, and he told me about the opportunity to go into financial advice and wealth management and look at that. And funnily enough, my personal player sponsor here at the club worked for St James's Place. He was a financial advisor. It was a partnership practice of St James's Place. So I literally didn't even know. I used to stare at the board every time and see who I was sponsored by, and then, until I actually put two and two together, that he was a financial advisor. Probably a bit naive on my part, but that was kind of where I got the initial introduction. I then went off and did a bit more research about St James's Place, spoke to our trade union about it, and they obviously got me in touch with the academy, and obviously I attended one of the events there, and one of the guys that was speaking at that event was a guy called Michael Reed, who was a former professional cricketer who played for Glamorgan, and I basically had a chat with him, obviously about his experiences transitioning from professional sport into what I think now is he's got his own partnership practices again within St James's Place. So obviously there was that connection there. So I went off and obviously tried to do some of my exams. I've then got in touch with SJP a little bit more, and was linked with one of their academy engagement officers, who has basically been kind of going into the background and trying to kind of line me up to essentially work within one of the partnership practices at SJP. So going through their academy once I've finished playing cricket, and then move off into one of their practices. And the one that he's actually lined me up with, I've actually signed an introduced and appointed representative contract with them. So it allows me to kind of build a bit of a client base still while I'm obviously playing cricket, and then allows that hopeful ease of transition into his practice once I've finished playing.
Because it sounds to me like actually the two of you have had quite different routes, even though you're both coming from a sporting background. Yeah. Ben, it sounds to me like he's more used social media, local companies, whereas actually your union, because of their connection, is it fair to say, Anuj, that you haven't used sort of like LinkedIn as much, next gen planners? Yeah, it's more come from the cricketers' connections with St James's Place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was obviously put in touch with SJP, and straight away I got a call from again one of the academy engagement managers, and they got in touch with me and talked about the routes in, and they were saying to me that they looked a lot to kind of recruit within professional sport and the military and things like that, because they supposedly so we're used to kind of dealing with the pressure and things, and it kind of works hand in hand with obviously what Ben and what a lot of people are doing within financial planning. So it kind of struck with me there, and it seemed like a very good fit. It seemed like they're a really good company and really good, a really good place where I'd potentially want to work after cricket. So it just felt more comfortable for me to go down that route, and obviously linking up with them, I then met up with Nick Turner, who I think you know, Luiza.
I do know Nick Turner very well.
He was the one that originally put me in touch with BTS, and obviously that's where I got all the very supportive material it's been a great couple of years, obviously doing my exams and things, but obviously a very different route to Ben, and what it feels like from obviously hearing Ben's story as a slightly easier route than obviously what he had to go through.
Yeah, it's very much a different route. So, in terms of you're talking about the fact that the company recruits a lot from within the sporting and profession and the military. What would you say are the qualities? So you've got no financial services experience. You're a professional cricketer. Yeah, what do they see in you and in other people with your background that they think will be a good fit with financial services? What do you think that is?
I think there's a few skills. Obviously, with it being so cutthroat, we're used to obviously handling pressure. We're used to being in environments where, cricket is a performance sport, as Ben would know. It's a sport where at the end of the day, you don't really have any externals that are looked at. You're not really looked at how well, I guess you are to a certain extent, but the niceties of your character, your personnel, and how you are as a person don't really come into the job at the end of the day. Ultimately it's your performances on the pitch that are going to be taken into account when you're having your contract appraisals and things like that. So we're kind of used to handling that pressure and being out and solely judged on our performance. Being able to deal with that pressure in, day out, I guess is what we kind of get accustomed to. So I think that's probably number one thing. Obviously having no financial services experience, you can kind of see what advisors are having to deal with, and it's people hard-earned money that you're having to invest in. You're having to plan about what's the best route of what's the best plan of action to kind of take forward. So you kind of know from that sense. Also, we're used to dealing with the strict schedule. We're kind of told where and when we need to be, and we need to be able to deal with our day to day and get the most from our performance. So that kind of time management skill is again what we kind of do day in and day out.
It's your bread and butter, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess those are probably the two main skills. Obviously being within a professional sport, we're in a dressing room where we've got probably 20 different players there. So again, engaging with players day in, day out, is again something that people skills is, I'm sure what's going to come very very important when you move on into financial services. So I think there's a variety of skills, but I think the pressure management and time management are probably the main go-tos of what I think is what they're looking for.
And I would agree. Ben, what do you think?
Very similar. I think the resilience is the major one. I think I would say even both when I was a cricketer and then in my previous career in sales and marketing, you fail a lot. You get told no a lot. You don't. So being able to pick yourself back up and go again is key. I think also it's having the drive to always looking to constantly improve. As a sports person, and and this is transferred from a lot of careers as well, though. But constantly you need to be looking to improve your knowledge, learning. I think it's like I said, especially cricket, changing. You spend these 4-day games. You're spending a lot of time with a squad of players, so you've got to have the people skills to get on with them. So you've got to work well with a team, and then also people skills in front of clients. So it's very similar. But those are, I think, the key ones I picked up from my life playing cricket, and then also in my previous career, it's quite similar.
How did you find the fact that you didn't have any financial services experience when it comes to studying for your exams? So, because both of you would have effectively been a fairly blank slate, other than your own personal experiences. How did you find that, Ben? Did you find, it was a positive? Did you find you had to work extra hard? How was the fact that you didn't really have much financial services experience when it came to your exams and that side of things?
I think it was probably a positive because I didn't have suddenly preconceived idea of what I was doing, as it were. So, when I was revising exams, that was the first time a lot of it I was learning it. So in terms of passing exams, that's a positive. If you have some prior knowledge, then I think some of the stuff you get fed by the CI, you might not agree with it, and it's probably hard to change your mindset on it. But so it's definitely a positive from my point of view. Difficult thing with anyone. I think if you're going in, you start with RO1, then don't judge the whole qualification just on RO1 because it is.
Otherwise, you'll give up, won't you?
Oh, wouldn't you? Yeah, it's rubbish. I'm perfectly honest. And I remember when I first got the CI textbook and looking at RO1, I was thinking, goodness me, like I'm not going to do this until I got in contact with yourselves and used your study guide. I didn't know hope. Anyone who gets the qualification off the textbook, fair play to you. Don't know how you do it.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd want to meet you.
RO1, I think, could definitely put people off and think, no, this is absolutely, not for me. I mean, what about applying for financial services jobs? Yeah, when you had no financial services experience, because you were saying previously, that people were very generous with their time, but taking on somebody that has got the exams but actually has never done the job, that's a different matter. So how did that go? I mean, you obviously went well because you've been working with Unity for, I think you said, 6 months, but was that quite a hill to climb, or?
Yes, there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, the first is, I've got no experience, so whoever was going to hire me would have to spend a lot of time with me and invest their time. And when you either a business owner or you're part of a busy practice, however small or big it is, that's a time constraint on the person who's going to invest time in you, and it's a cost. I understand I'm a cost. I've recruited before in other jobs. It's a cost, and that it's a cost in time and financially. So I get that. On the flip side, I know my huge attraction of my boss is the fact that he's got someone who's got some transferable skills, who's used to be in front of people from previous jobs, who likes being in front of people, and I'm a blank slate, so he could then mould and train me how he sees financial planning should be delivered and how he sees the brand, his company should deliver it. So I knew it was a huge plus for him in that sense. And he invested loads of time up front. He still does now. But he sees the long-term benefit. If he looks after me, then I'm going to be here for goodness knows how many years, hopefully. It's like with a lot of things, there's a lot of positives and there's the negatives. So, but I see the massive positive.
How long did it take you to actually get somebody to offer you a trainee role? Did you have quite a few setbacks, or did you find it reasonably straightforward?
I'm trying to think how long it took me. It took me a lot. It probably took me 9-10 months, which doesn't sound long in the grand scheme of things. From when I was starting to look, I was still in the middle of my exams. I was talking to a lot and applying for quite a lot during that time. I got told at the time. I did have a few job offers during that time though, but then I was also being really picky. And this is one advice I would give anyone: like be patient. Because before I joined Unity, I did spend 3 weeks at another practice, and I sort of joined them because I was getting a bit frustrated, and I sort of got a bit impatient. So I was there, but realised it wasn't the right place and it didn't align with what I wanted. So I would encourage anyone to. It can be frustrating, but be really patient and find a practice or someone that's going to invest in you and align with your values and your beliefs and how you want to be, how you want to do the job. I think that's really important. It doesn't sound like it took a lot of time, but I was doing a lot of looking and talking and interviews during that period. And it's hard because there's not many roles that come up. I found, especially trainee financial planning roles, there's some of the big guys like St. James Place are doing some really good stuff with academy and training, which is great. But if you want to be part of a smaller one, it's tough. It's not easy, and I can see it from the flip side of from their side of view. It's not easy to take on a trainee as well. So I don't know if I've answered your question there, Louise. I just realised.
No, that's
a bit long-winded in there, wasn't it?
That's great, Ben. Anuj, what about yourself? No financial services experience, studying for the exams, which we know are a challenge. Would you say that was a plus? Or a minus? The fact that you didn't have any experience.
Originally, I thought it was a minus. I remember going to that academy opening evening at St. James's Place, and I was sat in a room with, I think, 9 50-year-old guys in there. thinking, my God, I can't do this.
What am I doing here?
Yeah. And I walked in and I found it quite intimidating, thinking,
I'm sure.
maybe this is not quite right. Maybe there's a reason why people are going into this role and are much older than what I am. But I went in and I thought, I'll give it a go. I'll give RO1 a go. And as Ben and yourself mentioned, it's not the most appetizing subject to work through. But I mean, one of the pieces of advice that I was given was just to crack on and get it done. And I think I remember going through the first 3 or 4 chapters. Luckily, I kind of broke off my revision because then I went on holiday to Florida, which kind of put my mind at ease a little bit. But I came back in and just thought, you know what, I'm just going to try and crack on and get it done. And it was quite daunting because, again, I thought it was going to be easier if I had some more information about financial services and about the sector. And literally, I was going in with having nothing there. I had a broad idea of what the sector kind of involves and what it was like, but reading through the textbook, and at this point, it was actually I hadn't even heard of BTS at that point. So I was literally reading through the CII textbook that was just pages and pages of lines that just weren't making sense. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a long old process to try and get.
It's going to be a long haul, yeah.
And knowing that the first exam was a 100-question paper, having never experienced it, having not done an exam in such a long time, I found it quite tough because I was going through the whole process. I didn't really have any revision techniques. I was just reading it through and trying to make some notes here and there, and I didn't know whether that was the right thing to do or not. So it was daunting. It was quite a tough experience, and my first kind of experience of really pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Going to my exam at 9 a.m. and being sat in a room of 8 people, literally just in pure silence, thinking, "Oh my God, this is horrible."
And they're also not necessarily doing the same exam as you. Yeah, exactly. So they might actually be doing a 50-question exam. They get up and leave. You're still sat there. Of course, you don't know whether they're sitting RO1, RO5. You're sat there thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm still sat here." So I think with both of you, the fact that one of the really key things that you both mentioned is actually having no experience can actually be an advantage with getting those CII badges, because, and again, I don't mean this rudely, you've got no, not that I know of, yet bad financial services habits. Yet you haven't learnt something from 20, 25 years in the industry. Actually, to pass the exam, you've then got to relearn, because it isn't necessarily what is real life. Yeah, it's actually what the examining body's version of that real life is. So in a way, I think both of you, being a blank slate, probably worked in your favour. Another question, and again, it's for you, Anuj. If there was one bit of advice you could give a second careerist, somebody in a similar position to you, what would be your sort of like top tips? What would be your key bits of advice? Other than obviously go and find, Alex, Luiza, BTS, and use their materials, obviously.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That's non-negotiable for the exams. I honestly, I don't know how I managed to get through RO1 without BTS, but I'm very thankful I managed to find you guys after that. But I think through the exams, I mean, the key thing for me, Ben said it before, but for people in sport, we're used to having that drive and passion to kind of push on and get better every day. That's kind of what we come to expect when we turn up to training every day. We're trying to get better as a player, trying to get better individually. But I find it quite a nice challenge, and it took my mind away from cricket, and sometimes it's quite easy to get immersed in your current job 24/7. And I found that after a long day of cricket, you go back home and that's all you're thinking about is 24/7.
Well, you don't want to be thinking about RO1, do you, after a hard days? Yeah.
But funnily enough, it actually took my mind away from it, and it was good, and it set me a challenge to kind of do. And I remember when I had my meeting with Nick at SJP, he said, I know lots of people that have managed to get their exams done while they're still playing. And I thought, well, actually, if other people can do it, I don't see any reason why I can't do it.
Absolutely, yeah. So really being organised, having a plan.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you book your exam and then aim for it, or did you start your revision and after a while then book your exam?
So I was unsure really of which way to do it. When I was doing RO1, I didn't really have any idea of how I was going to structure my revision. I spoke to my brother, who is much more academically inclined than I am, and he gave me a bit of a process to do, a bit more probably a long-winded process of where I read through the textbook, made notes, which took me probably a good 3-4 weeks to do, and then I started to then actually go about learning the material and actually trying to revise it. So for RO1, I kind of did it because I didn't know the time frame of how long it was going to take. Yeah. I got through the revision material first, making notes, and then I put the exam thinking it was going to take 3-4 weeks. So I gave myself a 2-month window really to do all the revision and then to learn it. So I gave myself that target. I then realised halfway through actually revising material that I was going to be done a little bit earlier. And one thing my brother told me was that you can always peak too early with the material and actually answering all the questions, especially multiple choice questions, is that sometimes you can second guess yourself. And I think one of the BTS top tips was trust your gut.
Absolutely. Don't change your answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is actually what I went through. First off, I felt like I was doing really well with the questions. But then the more and more I did, the more I started to think, actually, did I put this first time around, or did I put this question, this answer second time around? So I've moved my original date earlier, and fortunately, they were quite flexible with when you could obviously book your sittings and things. So, and that was before they obviously had the remotely prompted exam. So that was quite fortunate. I did it that way. But every exam since then, I know how long it's going to take me to do it. I know it's roughly about 6 weeks. I give myself to do the exam, so I book it, and then I'm finding now that I'm moving them earlier because I'm managing to get them done. And
now you're showing off.
Well, from RO2 onwards, they're a lot more engaging than what RO1 was. So
they are. Absolutely. I don't think anybody could really, with the best will in the world, say RO1 is engaging. So. Okay, thank you, Anuj. Ben, what about you? Any sort of last top tips before we open up the mic and see if any of our listeners have got any questions?
To change your career, be patient and be curious. For the two things I'd say are most important. Take your time, decide what kind of financial planner or financial advisor you want to be and how you want to deliver it, and then pick a firm that's going to align with that and is going to support you, and then just always be curious, because exams are one thing, but once you actually get in the job, you kind of got to, what CII world is not real life world, a lot of it. So you'll start learning stuff again. Always be curious and
I think I'd probably add, listening to your experience, be brave, and don't be afraid to, if your initial choice firm-wise doesn't feel like it fits, to say that's not right for me, because I'm not sure everybody would have the sort of innate self-confidence to be able to do that. It's so important that where you're actually working reflects your own sort of ethics, your own, how you want to do the job. So all credit to you. I think the fact that you did an initial 3-week stint and then said, no, this isn't right for me. Not sure everybody would be able to do that.
No, I mean, I was very fortunate. I've got a very supportive wife, and I've sort of prepared for this for years. So I was in a position where I know not everyone's in a position where I knew after a couple of days, I'm out.
This isn't going
to work for me. But that's not saying what they were doing wrong, but it wasn't in the line of how I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I am fortunate that your first job definitely 100% won't define your career. So say be brave, and if it's not working, you don't think it's the place for them. Yeah.
No,
and to get out.
Absolutely, and sometimes it takes time to actually find the right fit for you. And yeah, okay. I'm going to pass the mic over to those of you listening to us. Has anybody got any questions that they want to ask? Yeah, either Ben or Anuj. And don't be shy. The more questions, the merrier.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind actually. Hi guys, how you doing? Really good to sort of hear your respective stories. I just wanted to check, Ben, did you go straight into an employed role? Is your current role an employed role? And then I just wanted to know, did you apply to a specific advert, or was that through a recruiter? Sorry, too many kind of sub questions here. But then I wondered, if you could just sort of describe what you are enjoying most about your kind of day-to-day job, and perhaps any tips for interviews, because I'm kind of in a position that you were in not so long ago. I've done the exams. I'm awaiting the RO6 result, and I'm now starting to put feelers out and speak to recruiters and things like that. And then Anuj, I just wondered, with SJP, are you looking to go straight into self-employment after you've been through the academy, or is the plan for you to join an existing practice, and will you be self-employed or employed, and how you see that panning out?
Okay, so I'm going to manage that a little bit. Yeah. So
yeah, sorry, it's a bit long.
Jay, that's okay. So I'm going to go to Ben first. Yeah, in terms of the employed, self-employed, some hints and tips on how you go about actually finding somebody to take you on. So if I could go to you first, Ben.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in an employed role, so with an independent practice down here, so like a boutique, quite small but growing financial planning practice down the south coast. How did I go about looking at it? To be honest, it was pure luck. So I'd actually handed my notes in the first one after a couple of weeks, and then just popped on LinkedIn the next day, and this trainee role popped up near me. Had a look at the website. I thought, well, this looks interesting. It's exactly sort of what I want to do. Applied for it, and then had an interview on the phone or Zoom one that week, and then did sort of went in for the day the week after, and got the role. So to be honest, it was pure luck and timing. And my boss said he put the advert out there just to see on a school night evening with a glass of wine, and I bit the next morning. So that was fortunate. But yeah, I mean, when I was looking, I looked at sort of the self-employed roles and the SJPs and all that, and because that does appeal. I think once down the line, I would like to be self-employed eventually at some point. But I kind of wanted to get a firm footing within the industry and work sort of under someone or have as a mentor, as it were, and really build up my skills and get really good at the job first before I made that jump. If I ever make that jump, because to be fair, I've got flexibility here. It could almost argue it's a self-employed role, because if you're part of a good firm that gives you the flexibility and whatnot, it feels that way anyway. So in that sense, I was a bit fortunate in terms of the timing, and very lucky to be where I am now, because I just fell on my feet because I love it here, and I've got a fantastic company, fantastic boss. So that was lucky. But I mean, I think I just speak to as many people as you can, just reach out to recruiters, and I don't know your personal situation, but if you can be patient and find the right thing that works for you, then do that. But also don't be afraid if you do end up somewhere and you go, actually, it's not quite right for me, because it doesn't define, it's not going to define your career in the long term. A bit of luck.
Thank you, Ben. Anuj, what about the same question to you? So I obviously know quite a bit about the SJP model. If you don't mind sort of like sharing what your plans are, what basis you're going to go in on.
Yeah, sure. So when I was initially going through the process again, the academy engagement managers at SJP were kind of scouting me out to see what exactly was going to be not only the best fit for me, but also if I was going to go down the self-employed route, do I have enough of a network to be able to go down that route and get enough clients that way? but also if I wanted to go down the employed route through a partnership practice, exactly how that was going to work. And obviously it's a two-way street. What I have to offer has to be a good fit for the partnership practice. Fortunately, what they ended up putting me into a position of was they found a partnership practice that was relatively close to me in Nottingham. I think they've got 11 or 12 advisors in that business who are predominantly through sport. I think 4 or 5 of those advisors are either going through or have just finished the academy at SJP, and I've obviously got links within sport. So and also the head of the partnership is a big sports person. He loves sport, loves cricket, which was a bit of a win for me. So it kind of seemed like a good fit. So it was kind of up to me then to kind of see exactly how it was going to work. I mean, I quite enjoy the pressure. I quite enjoy, being in cricket. I enjoy that, and I kind of thrive off that a little bit. So I always knew, I always felt as though the self-employed was going to be a better option for me. But at the same time, going into a new career, I kind of appreciated that actually having a bit of support maybe in my first or second year was going to be quite beneficial. So it was about trying to find the right deal so that I would have a bit of financial support and obviously that mentoring within the first couple of years, but then have the autonomy to then move on and actually start my own, whether it's self-employed within that partnership practice or go off on my own right under the SJP umbrella and go and start my own business. So
and they do offer though, don't they? Sorry to butt in, Anuj. They do offer, employed. You do have partner practices out there, James, where you can go in on an employed basis. So it isn't automatically the self-employed route. They do offer from memory both models, and like you're saying, Anuj, really depends on what floats your boat. What do you feel more confident with? And Ben's point about initially going in as an employee, whilst you get the experience, whilst you get the mentoring, to then get the confidence to then go self-employed, we see that quite a bit as well.
I think it's quite tough to go in with the mindset that you're going to be self-employed straight away, because essentially it's you, especially into a new career, it's going to be you by your own, and yes, you've got the backing of SJP and you've got the support there, but essentially
you've got to build it.
You've got to fight for yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You've got to build clients and you've got to build that network while you're doing all the admin stuff, while you're doing everything else. So I knew straight away, and from my conversations with the guys at SJP, I knew that was going to be tough. And going into a new career where I've got no experience whatsoever, I thought, God, that's going to be tough work if I do that straight away. So the model, fortunately, that I ended up with, and being in a position now where I can introduce clients to that business, means that I'm building a bit of capital now while I'm still playing. Obviously, the advice is being given by the partnership practice, while I'm still not qualified. But the deal we got to at the end is that essentially once I've fully qualified and once I've gone through the academy, those clients then become my clients. So it was a great deal. I wouldn't have to pay to get them back. So it was a really good position because I knew I could build a client network while I'm still playing and obviously while I'm still active within the game. But then once I move on, I can be essentially the kind of the deal that we ended up with was technically employed for the first year or two, but obviously still, building off the kind of the fees and things from the clients that I've introduced, and then have the autonomy in probably in year 3 or 4 to move off and go the self-employed route should I wish to do that.
Yeah, I mean there are, James, lots of different models. Yeah, it isn't just okay, I'm going to be employed over here, I'm going to be self-employed over here. There are absolutely different models. And something that I would also put in, and Anuj mentioned it there, the admin. Yeah, never underestimate the administration, because that's always a big shock to anybody new into actually doing the job. Because I don't think whilst you're learning, you actually appreciate how much paperwork each case gives you. So again, just going out on your own, that absolutely works for some people, but it's nice to have that, those support services and that security, from being part of a company. Everybody, I'm conscious, that we're at 47 minutes running. So James, thank you for that. Hopefully we've helped a little bit there. Ben and Anuj, absolutely lovely to meet you face to face, and you know what I mean. Such a fantastic couple of additions to financial services. So thank you so much, for being involved, and thank you everybody else for dialing in.